It was one of those quiet grey evenings that felt heavier than usual. The rain had been coming down in sheets, all afternoon, tapping against the windows, like it had something important to say. Was curled up on the couch with a cup of chamomile tea and a fleece blanket draped over my legs, flipping through channels with nothing catching my attention. When I heard the doorbell ring, I wasn't expecting anyone. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if it was just a package delivery, but then came a second knock, firm, urgent. I got up, slipped on my slippers, and opened the door. Standing there, soaked from head to toe, was my nephew Jason. He looked like he'd been through something. His usually neat sandy blonde hair was plastered to his forehead, and his blue hoodie clung to his frame like it had absorbed the weight of his troubles. His brown eyes, so much like his mother's, were wide and unsettled. "Aunt Lisa," he said, his voice low, almost trembling. "Can I come in?" "Of course," I said quickly. Stepping aside, he moved past me and stood awkwardly in the entryway. I grabbed a towel from the hallway closet and handed it to him. He dried off in silence, while I watched him with growing concern. Jason wasn't the kind of kid who just dropped by. He was respectful, independent, always insisted on handling things on his own. Even when he was little, something was very wrong. I guided him to the couch and set a plate of reheated lasagna in front of him. He picked at it for a few minutes before finally speaking. "I'm in trouble." My heart sank, but I didn't let the panic show on my face. "What kind of trouble?" He swallowed hard, keeping his eyes on the half-eaten food I made. "Some mistakes at college, not with school stuff. I mean, classes are fine. It's everything else that's messed up." I didn't interrupt. Knew he needed space to let it all out. Got in with some people. I thought they were cool at first. You know, guys in my dorm who always had money through the best parties. They started inviting me out, and I didn't want to say no. I felt like I finally belonged somewhere. He paused, gripping his fork tightly. Then came the favors. At first, it was little stuff: drive someone somewhere, let them use your room for a night pickup, a package. Nothing illegal. Or so I thought, but it wasn't innocent. I didn't realize what I was mixed up in until it was too late. My throat tightened, but I kept my voice calm. "What happened? I owe them a lot. And not just money. They're saying you need to repay them by doing one more thing, something I don't want to do. I tried to get out of it." They laughed and told me to either do it or pay them back immediately. Why not go to the police? He looked up at me for the first time since arriving. His eyes were red, because if I go to the cops, they'll release stuff, videos, photos, messages, stuff that'll ruin me. I was stupid. I said and did things I didn't understand the consequences of at the time. "And your parents?" He shook his head. "They'd freak out. Dad would lose it. Mom would cry. Don't want to disappoint them." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. I didn't know who else to go to. Maybe you could help. You've always been the one person in this family who sees me. That broke me a little inside. Jason was a good kid. He didn't deserve this. "What exactly do you need me to do?" He hesitated. "They want to meet tomorrow. Just a quick talk," they said. "But I know what that means. I don't want to go alone." Here, paused, looking embarrassed. "Would you come with me? Just be there. Maybe talk to them. You're smart. Maybe you can say something that makes them back off." I should have said no. I should have told him this was beyond me. But looking at him, my sister's son, the boy who used to build Lego towers in my living room, I couldn't turn him away. "All right," I said, surprising both of us. "Tell me where and when." The relief in his eyes was instant. We spent the rest of the evening planning. I made him shower, gave him a change of my ex-husband's old clothes, and let him crash on the couch. I barely slept, turning over worst-case scenarios in my head, but one thing was certain I was going to stand by him the next day. We drove to a deserted parking lot just off a highway exit, about 30 minutes outside the city. The air was thick with humidity, and my hands were damp on the steering wheel. Jason sat beside me, visibly tense. There, he said, pointing toward a black pickup truck parked under a flickering lamppost. Two men stood nearby. They didn't look much older than Jason, but they carried themselves with arrogance that came from knowing they held power over someone. One had dark sunglasses and a muscle jacket despite the heat. The other was chewing gum, aggressively jaw-twitching. We got out of the car. I kept my chin up, but inside, my heart was pounding. "This Isha?" one of them asked, nodding toward him. "She's my aunt," Jason said. "She's just here to talk." I stepped forward. I wanted to clear a few things up. "You've made some threats to my nephew. He's young. He made some mistakes, but this has gone far enough. The guy with the gum-smirked mistakes have consequences." "Lady, they do," I replied evenly. "But so do threats." I've recorded everything Jason told me, names, times, even this location. Our copy is already backed up to a cloud drive, set to send to law enforcement. If anything happens to me or him. They exchanged a glance. "This some kind of bluff." "Try me," I said, pulling out my phone. "The message has already been scheduled. I don't want trouble, neither does Jason, but we're not afraid of you." They stood there for a moment, weighing their options. Then the guy with the sunglasses gave a short laugh. "You got guts. I'll give you that." They turned to leave, shrugging like this had all been a minor inconvenience. Jason stared in disbelief. So they drove off. "Did that really just happen?" he asked. I nodded, trying to steady my shaking hands. "Yes, but this isn't over. We're getting you help, the right kind, back at my house." Jason broke down everything he had bottled up, spilled out his fear, his shame, his anger at himself. I held him while he cried, whispering that he wasn't alone. We spent the next few weeks focusing on getting him out of that toxic environment. He withdrew from the university temporarily and started therapy with support. He slowly rebuilt himself. A few months later, he sent me a handwritten letter. In it, he said something that stayed with me forever. "Thank you for being the person I could run to when it felt like my whole world was falling apart." I thought asking for help made me weak, but you showed me that strength can look like a warm meal, a steady voice, and someone who stands by you no matter what. Jason eventually returned to school, but at a new campus with a clean slate. He found healthier friendships, joined a volunteer group, and even began mentoring younger students about peer pressure and making better choices. And me, I learned something too. Sometimes being an adult doesn't mean having all the answers. Sometimes it means being willing to stand in the storm with someone else until they find their way out. That rainy night, when Jason showed up on my doorstep, changed everything for both of us. Because the first time my nephew asked for help, I did something I never imagined I'd do. I became his anchor, and I'd do it all over again.